Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. Let's talk about gold and silver. My name's Andy, my channel is Finding Value, and I do these technical analysis updates all the time. So what I like doing is I like using charts to be my guide. Charts give you information about direction, about particular patterns that are developing that we could potentially break. And if we're breaking big long-term patterns and trend lines, usually what that means is that the market agrees with my thesis that gold and silver is going to go higher. We should be seeing chart patterns that are breaking to the upside. And if we see that, we should be getting excited. We should be holding on to our positions with diamond hands, paper hands, whatever hands that you've got. You want to hold on to them because the gains will come. So let's look at these long-term chart patterns that I've got for gold and silver. I'm going to go through some other correlations that hopefully you guys can see with me. I'm going to show you those correlations between real estate, M2 money supply, and inflation. We're going to look at the dollar, and we're going to tie all this together to create a fundamental case of why gold and silver should go higher. So let's jump in. Gold and silver. So let's chart these things. I think the inflation could be coming, and watch the dollar. Watch that dollar weakness. Again, this is only financial education. Whatever you guys want to partake in terms of financial investments is on your own accord. You're going to have to do the due diligence yourself, and you guys are going to have to figure out what you want to partake in. None of this information is financial advice. So, looking at the new privately owned housing unit starts, I boxed in something that I think is kind of cool. So this was a bull market for gold and silver. The housing units basically were in an expansion phase almost the entire time, and it made this unique pattern of an up and down move. So you've got two hills connected together. Let's correlate this two hills with the M2 money supply, and then correlate it with inflation. So the next chart I'm going to show you is you want to look for these two humps. These two humps affect the M2 money supply because what I am telling you in my analysis is that when the expansion phase comes, it's inflationary, and we get new loans against new homes, which creates money. And that creating of money increases the M2 money supply. And when that M2 money supply increases, eventually it manifests itself in inflation. So I'm going to prove to you just that case. So here's the two humps, 1970 to 1980, two humps. 1970 to 1980, there's the two humps in your M2 money supply. This M2 money supply is linked to real estate housing unit starts in residential. Then, if you look at what's delayed just to the right of it in the red, so M2 is the black line, the red line is inflation. Inflation is delayed a little bit from the M2 money supply. So what you're going to see is the M2 money supply go up, and then eventually you'll see the inflation rate go up. And this movement of M2 is just, the inflation is just lagged or phased. It's a phased over a couple years. So you'll see the money supply follows the real estate housing starts. And the inflation is just lagged behind it by a couple years, 2 years, let's say. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, we've got this massive increase of money that these guys have been printing. This is ridiculous. And if you look on the right-hand side of the housing starts, we are coming into an expansion phase, just like we were in an expansion phase here, and the last boom from mid-90s all the way on for a commodity boom was this boom here. This is inflationary, but they also threw on top of it all this money printing. This is a weird scenario where this red line, and I'm curious to see what happens here, because I don't exactly know here. We haven't seen a move in M2 money supply like this ever. I mean, look at how vertical that is. This vertical move here in the 40s, you could say caused this move here. Remember, it's delayed a little bit. This move here could potentially, I mean, you could see this coming to pull up, could just rocket 20, 30% of inflation. So I'm very curious to see what happens here. Now, let me back out of here. If we get this type of inflation here, where the M2 comes up and they start doing quantitative, or I should say yield curve control, quantitative easing, if they hold those interest rates down while that comes, gold and silver are going to crush it. I mean, you're going to see a massive real negative rate, which will create the largest real negative rate that we've ever seen. You could see a massive move very quickly in gold and silver. So we haven't seen an M2 money supply that has gone vertical like this. I'm very curious, excited, scared, nervous to see an M2 money supply that large all happen at once. But I am heavily positioned to take advantage of that. So that's what's in front of us right now, is this big M2 money supply, basically increase in M2 money supply, and I think the inflation is going to come right behind it. It's just lagged. Now, we should see this in a weaker dollar. Here's the dollar. The dollar has been coming down. We've hit the bottom here. We came back up, and we're coming back down, and we're creating a pattern where the dollar could break to the downside. We're seeing weakness in the dollar. If we break this kind of 89 something level down here, we could see a large move down, a very large move. So everything is aligning to say that the inflation of this red line is going to go higher with the alignment of the dollar ready to break to the downside. So it's all aligned. It's all there. Now, gold price, we're kind of coming up here. Today, we went all the way, I think, to almost 19. I think we were at 1900. So we're at 1900 now. So we had a big move higher. I think this is going to continue. And if we get that M2 money supply like we have, and the inflation comes right behind it, this guy is going to account for it. So we should be seeing a large move upward at some point any second. And we saw a good move today. I think that move is going to continue. We've got silver. Silver put in a very large update today. I think it was a bullish engulfing. I did this. This wasn't updated for today. It's always lagged by one day. And if it put in this large bullish engulfing, I think we're going to see a continuation to the upside. Hopefully that's the case. And then we've got platinum. Platinum had a very nice, good update today. We did break this to the downside here. We did break out to the downside, so we could see this kind of pull back and then head on higher. I don't think platinum will be left behind if we see a large move in gold and silver. If inflation comes, platinum will account for it. So I think everything will be all good. Now, another thing that I like to look at is the gold and silver index in relationship to gold, the ratio. So it's the gold and silver index ratio to gold. And what we're seeing here, I drew a line, is we're seeing a breakout of the gold and silver index mining companies. That is huge. It is huge. It's saying that we should be in gold and silver mining companies. That's what it's saying. And if we get in those, we need to hold on. This is going to be a big long-term bull market in the gold and silver mining companies. We're going to see a good outperformance of gold and silver mining companies. So that's where I'm at. I put a lot of money. I've got a lot of my money riding on physical precious metals and also the mining companies. Here is wheat and precious metals. So I'm going to look at some of the royalty companies. I'm going to look at some large companies. I'm going to start looking at companies to see if we can see confluence with what I am seeing back here. So what I'm looking for is if what I'm saying is true, if we're entering an expansion phase of real estate that we're seeing in this housing market, right there, the housing starts. So if we're entering an expansion phase of real estate, if the M2 money supply jumped as big as it has right there, and we're going to see an inflation move, if the dollar is going to come down and break this pattern right here to the downside, we should be seeing massive setups in the mining companies. And we have the mining companies outperforming gold right here. Sorry. If we're seeing this outperformance as well, we should be seeing the mining companies kill it. We should be seeing them breaking out of their all-time highs to the upside, ready to move. We are seeing that in wheat and precious metals here in this royalty company. It is ready to go. So that's one that looks like it's putting in basically a cup and handle type pattern, which could move massively to the upside. Massively. Newmont Corporation, look at that, breaking to the upside. We've got the long-term uptrend, and guess what? This is all-time highs, it looks like. And even if we backtest back here, it's okay. Get in and hold on. Ride this bull higher. Ride it higher, because it's coming. If that inflation comes, these guys are going to launch. They're going to launch. Here's Heckler Mining Company, 60-year. I think it went all the way back to that. It's a 60-year. This is probably in the 80s back here. 60-year trend line break. Look at that thing. This is going to be a huge move. So Heckler's aligning just perfectly for a very large move. Here's the GDX. GDX, we draw this resistance line going across here. We hit it here. We hit it again. We came back below it. And here we are coming back above it. It's still got to put in some work, but it's looking good. Here's the GDXJ. Look at this guy. Run across, hit it there, hit it there. You know, we're came up above it. A lot of sellers sold on back, and I think we're going to break through here, this area and really start to move to the upside. So this is one to watch. We've got SILJ. SILJ, look at this. Big, long downtrend pattern, and we're breaking to the upside. So what does all of this mean? What if we tie it all together, what does it mean? It means that we have an M2 money supply that has exploded. If you look at history, inflation has followed the M2 money supply in terms of inflation rates, lagged by a couple years, maybe a year or two. If it's 2 years, we are coming up. All that money was created in March 2020, April 2020, and they're continuing to create a lot of money. We have an expansion phase of real estate that is also inflationary, which supports the inflation coming. How big this inflation is going to be, I'm not 100% sure, but we can see that everything is aligning in the charts. We've got the M2 money supply up, inflation starting to turn up. We see the dollar weakness, lots of pressure pushing the dollar down. We've got the expansion phase in real estate that's backing us and putting that wind behind us, the tailwinds. And we're seeing all of the gold and silver charts on a long-term basis breaking their big, long uptrend, downtrend, resistance lines to the upside. What does it mean? It means that we should own these companies and hold on. That's what it means. I think over the next 5 years, 10 years, I don't know how fast this is going to go, but they're breaking. They're all breaking to the upside. This is the time that you hold on. And this is the time where holding is going to make you money. I am heavily invested in this stuff. I've got a lot of money riding on this. It could be upwards of 40 to 50% of my entire net worth on the line of precious metals, because I have a lot of physical precious metals, and then I have a lot in mining companies that are physical precious, I should say precious metals related. And then if that dollar drops, commodities in general, just across the board, are going to go berserk. So I think we're in the right locations here. All these charts look incredibly good. I am incredibly excited, yet a little nervous because how big that M2 money supply is, that rate of change that they've got, and I'm nervous because I don't want to see like a hyperinflation or something that happens. I know we've got some people that are predicting hyperinflation type scenarios. I am prepared for it in case it does happen, but man, we've got these charts all set up. They're all good to go. So I'm extremely excited for myself, for the channel, for everyone who is partaking in this commodity bull market with precious metals. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. Appreciate you guys listening. This is Finding Value.